Hello and welcome back to another Let's Backflip Happy Hour show. I almost forgot what the heck the title of this thing was there for a moment. I'm Ryan Fring, one of your co-creative directors here at Backflip, and joining me as always is the esteemable John Shoemaker. What's going on, John?
Very steamable.
So esteemable. You're just are you just regularly steamed today?
I wish I was. It's like cold in my basement. It's cold enough
Yeah.
that the weather is tricking the heater into not turning on.
Well, don't worry. Tomorrow, just suck all that air in from outside. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So this is a happy hour. So we'll introduce our drinks and then we'll bring on the guests that you came to listen to or watch or to live interact with in just a moment. But we want to share what we're drinking and then we'll bring them on and they can share what they're drinking. So what do you got? What do you got, John? You go first.
Oh boy, how embarrassing! I'm just kidding. Hop water. I saw you got the hop water. I mean, it's the first Friday of Lent, right? So, not that my Lenten things. One of them is decrease the alcohol drinking, but I've created some boundaries, outside of events and stuff. So I mean, I could count this as an event if I really wanted to. Anyway,
Yeah,
got
just
hop water.
not having 5 every lunch hour.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
knock it down a little bit. So
Yeah.
the hop water, that's really good. You'll probably talk more about that. And then in here, in probably
your own
like
personal coffee.
30 seconds. Well, it's rasa. Rasa.
Yeah,
Rasa.
no, that's what I said. Your own personal rasa.
So
We're clearly very good marketers because we know the names of these products so well.
well, that's not even the brand or whatever. This one's called Joy. I don't know. I don't really care what they're called.
This is going really well for us right now.
Yeah, so if you want to pay for a sponsorship with us, this is the kind of talk you'll get.
Nice. All right, so you got some Ross and some hop water. Yeah. Oh, this is good too. I don't know if you can hear. Now this is the hour of the day. I forgot that my water softener goes. So I also have hop water.
There's ASMR. You probably can't hear it. No, it's probably too quiet.
I can hear it, and I hate every minute of it. I hate the sound of water like right in my ear. I'm also drinking hop water. Yeah, we're kind of coming out of a season and into a new season, and with Lent, I'm like, yep, I'm gonna stop drinking for a little bit. So this is how I enjoy happy hours, with things that remind me of the good old days of alcohol. Hop water is really, really good. It's basically just hops in waters, adaptogens and new tropics and whatever. It's all the marketing,
all those words
to sell stuff.
All that's made up.
But that's not why you're here. You're here to see our guests, Adam and Andrea, talk. So let's go ahead and bring them on and say, hey guys.
Hey.
Hi there.
How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well.
Good.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you were able to survive that preamble. So why don't you give us what are you guys drinking today? What'd you bring? I think I saw some glasses there.
It was definitely not just water.
Nice.
We're drinking Domaine Carneros, which is a sparkling facility out in Napa. Was one of the first wineries that we went to together. Can't speak enough good things about it. We love champagne, love sparkling wine, love champagne. That was something we kind of bonded over. So that is a perfect way to end this Friday.
Yeah, I don't know much about champagne. We're doing a wine class with a friend of ours, so we're in kind of the Bordeaux region and doing French wines and things like that. And obviously, champagne comes from Champagne, and then we have sparkling wines and bubbly from over here. But what about champagne do you guys really, really like? Why is it your go-to?
I think it's because it goes so well with anything you eat, and it seems to be something you can drink any time of day. But the thing that I personally love about it's like a marketer's drink. It's a drink that was considered something that you're not supposed to drink. It was kind of like a mess up. When the French kind of discovered it, they were like, this wasn't really supposed to happen. And they were trying to make it in a still wine. And then they were kind of like, well, let's run with it. Let's turn it into a celebration drink. Let's market the heck out of it. And And that's actually what they did. And now they've really kind of elevated that. And because of that, I feel like there's the marketing story that kind of is first original wine marketing story.
I love that so much because I believe like ice wines are similar or other dessert wines when I forget what that's called, but that bacteria or that fungus forms on the wine and desiccates or the grapes and desiccates it. That happened. And then the winemakers were like, oh no, the traveling administrator is going to come and test the wine. And this is not good wine. Just give it to the peasants. And it was so loved and went over so well. They're like, oh no, this is really good wine. We need to save it for the royalty. So
Right.
that's another way of like things going wrong. And then you kind of turn it around. That seems like a popular wine trope.
Yeah. I think that's
all I
one
heard.
the whole like water out of wine thing or wine out of, they're like, oh, we'll figure it out somehow. We'll manipulate it or we'll do whatever we need to do and slap a fancy label on it. And there you go. So
Yeah, we got to make it work.
All I heard was that you can pour it on cereal. So that's
right, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that was the marketing
Pour
of
it on
it.
Lucky
Yeah.
Charms right now. I think it turns green. So that's what I've heard.
I think I probably have a bottle of wine upstairs and I've got a soda stream. So I'm thinking I could
make
that's
a
probably
spritzer. That's called a spritzer. So there you go.
You do you, whatever that takes. Yeah. So I do have a bio for you guys that I want to read just because that kind of gives, people a sense of who you are. But then I just want to hear it from you guys as well. So Adam, and how do you say your last name?
Parikh.
Parikh?
Yes.
Okay. So Adam Parikh has a 20-year career on the forefront of digital marketing. His deepest knowledge lies in paid digital media buying involving CTV, OTT, pre-roll, display, and search. He is particularly adept at aligning non-technical marketers and technical resources to set strategy and implement online marketing campaigns that meet and exceed goals. Adam has also taught a graduate and undergraduate level internet marketing class at UW-Milwaukee. After spending, all right, so that's Adam, and I'll let you go for you in a second. Now, this is Andrea. After spending the past 5 years in New York as a VP of product marketing, focusing on the evolution of mobile measurement and programmatic solutions for Clear Channel Outdoor, Andrea, and I forgot how to say your last name already, Parikh, is glad to be applying her skills to the broader digital landscape with Gigawatt Media, your guys' company. At Gigawatt, Andrea is focused on client services, brand development, and project management, plus opportunities for team growth and education with a goal of making Gigawatt one of the best places to work in the Midwest. So that's pretty great. There's a lot of stuff in here that I don't know what it is. So just who are you guys and what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, we're, we kind of, Andrea and I met as a couple over professional organizations related to marketing and advertising. We both had, careers, respective careers in our marketing fields. And, from there, we both kind of elevated our careers in the last 10 years and took leadership positions. And from there, we, set ourselves up to start our own business. So it's just really about taking everything we've learned, working for agencies and direct brands directly and bringing it to our own set of clients.
Yeah.
Well, and we used to say, like, you worked for the newest form of media because he worked in internet SEO and all those things. And that's what his background was. And I was in out of home. So I was in the oldest form of advertising. And as our industries, as most of those traditional industries had to change, it was kind of bringing on forms of data and audiences and all those things. And so then I started playing more and more in your space, and you were kind of like, get out of my space. Like, can we not talk about media and marketing all the time? And it just kind of evolved, and that's kind of what I started to do more and more of. And then, now we're bringing that together because there's that background of traditional media, internet media, but also huge in client services and understanding that, like, we both had exposure to that larger level, like what big media companies can do and kind of can bring the positives of that, some of the process and value and team engagement. And we like to throw big parties and stuff like that, but then also just kind of focusing on client services, small business, some of that small business attention as well. So
Are you telling me that you're not sitting over like Valentine's dinner, just discussing the ins and outs of TikTok?
That, I mean, we do have to cut that topic off because we both really enjoy it. I mean, that's one of the things where, I mean, this morning over coffee, we're talking about Nielsen and what they're doing with data. And I was saying, I just saw something about what was going on at the ANA conferences. And it's then you're kind of like packing your kids' lunch and sending them off to school and focusing on, don't just keep it together today, buddy. It's the end of the week. Let's just get over the goal line and come home. And
yeah, it is interesting how our worlds kind of just kept creeping closer and closer and closer together. Traditional media had to kind of get with the times and plug into the sort of systems where media is bought and sold these days. And Andrea was like on the forefront of that. So, we do a lot of digital out of home now. So she got sucked right back into it. And, the forms of media I buy to really get, to relate to people that were used to buying traditional media, we had to sometimes relate things back to GRPs and TRPs and share of voice and just the sorts of metrics and ways to communicate how this campaign may perform in more traditional means. So we just kind of, our worlds just kept getting closer and closer until we're essentially in the same space.
Mm-hmm. And you guys said a bunch of things there that I want to clarify too. I think like with digital or with out of home, right? We can imagine what that is. Like an immediate thing would be like a billboard or a sign or something you see in a store or something like that. What do you mean by digital out of home? Is that like a digital board or is that something else?
Yeah, I mean, it can span everything from the digital billboard to the gas station TV these days. And my expertise is definitely on what we call roadside and doing the street furnitures. And there's digital transit shelters in San Francisco, and there's digital kiosks that, also give off Wi-Fi in New York, which is very interesting when you see what people choose to do with public Wi-Fi in New York. So,
oh my gosh,
yeah. But those are the way to reach people that are out on the street, and then you're getting as granular as the signs in your gyms, and your Topgolf now has like a contract with a lot of programmatic advertisers, and if you wanted to speak to golf enthusiasts, that's a really good place to be.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's some really interesting forms of it too. There's a company called Adomni. Shout out Jonathan Gadai. They enable digital signs on the tops of Ubers, even. So you can get your message on the top of an Uber, on the top of a taxi, within hours.
Yeah.
So interesting, because I don't think I see them and I think to myself, oh, that's a good idea, but I haven't investigated about like how to get on there. And I think Adam, when you were talking last month to the American Advertising Club for Madison, I think you were talking about some like I don't know what the correct term is, but some sort of like all-in-one solutions to be like, I want to just place ads, and I want them to be in everywhere. Various locations. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's called a demand side platform. Some of the big names out there are the Trade Desk, Xandr, Media Math, and initially these things were set up just to place banner ads, right? Like you just put in a banner ad, and you could put it on ESPN or CNN.com, things like that. But as video became big, right? Things like
mobile,
mobile, 4G cellular, broadband. As people's internet connections got better, and the publishers got wise that they can make more money off of richer formats. Because their subscriber bases were being slashed, right, by newspapers, things like that. They needed to make more money digitally. They enabled, more advanced, richer forms of media on their site. And eventually, right, it's a very traditional tech kind of roadmap, right? There'll be a niche player right? Just specializing in mobile, just specializing in video, and they get bought up and kind of integrated into larger platforms, and it just becomes more standardized. So it is pretty cool to be able to buy 4, 5, 6 different formats of media in just one interface. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder too, and maybe we'll get to the technical side of it too, but I wonder, like, what is the biggest challenge with all this? Because there's so many opportunities, right? You could do everything, but should you do everything? We dabbled in radio, and we didn't see a ton of success in radio until we got a giant client, and then we're like, oh, okay, well, that balances it out. The effort is not huge, so let's try that again. So we're going to try radio again, and other mediums that we've used before, to varying success. What's kind of your just mental approach when thinking about these things? Is it, okay, I have a budget of this much, so I can do all 20 things, or really let's focus in, or I don't know, you got to make it up and figure out what works with the client, and, on a use per use basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's, that really comes down to media planning, which is a very, established kind of practice, right? Media planning, media buying isn't new. It's so I think that is, you're onto a good point where you do have to go back into good plans, using formats to their best, what their best, to their best strengths. And understanding, well, how many people could you reach, and modeling if that's going to be effective for you. So, people, that it's easy to think that digital is some sort of precision, scalpel, and it can be at times, but it is still media. People are still people, and you need enough ad exposures. You need the great sorts of creative, that people like Backflip put out to engage the consumer and communicate your message. So it is new, but everything new is still old, right? You need to have a good and you have to have good creative, and if you're not doing that, then you're not going to get the results you want.
Yeah,
so
and
if I wanted to get that phrase with like your face like up on a billboard.
Yeah. Adam at Gigawatt sponsors this message.
Yeah, that's right. Let's do it.
And billboard before, which is a whole nother story. But
you have had your face on a billboard?
Well,
oh yes, this is the time for story time.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it all kind of traces back to Andrea before she got kicked upstairs from the Milwaukee branch of Clear Channel to the New York corporate branch, where she got put in the big leagues. She did an amazing event where she worked like 46 out of 48 hours straight. It was wild. They rented out one of the spaces at the Harley Davidson Museum. Took a freaking bus. They put a bus in there. They put a transit shelter in there. And then another component was you just stand in front of a camera with a digital camera. They take your picture and then upload that right up to a digital board on I-94. And then all the digital boards are enabled with webcams, because you got to have this proof of performance or whatever. And
so we would just take the pictures.
Yeah.
And
so
send them out.
Yeah. So lo and behold, my face was on a billboard, and they took a quick webcam snapshot and emailed it to me. It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So the webcam proof of performance means that it's actually working, that you can see that what you expect is up there. Okay.
Yeah.
So one part of your even traditional out of home buy is they'll have people kind of cruise the markets and take pictures of boards. And fun fact, Andrea was a part of a really cool, was that 4th of July campaign?
Yeah, we broadcast the Star Spangled Banner all over the United States.
Yeah.
So it was like every digital board in the US was flipping through the
oh wow,
of the Star Spangled Banner. And if you went to UnitedFourth.com. You got to hear Ingrid Michaelson singing a version of the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the fun part is we pulled off the freeway during rush hour so she could take pictures of the board by Miller Park. And she's like up on fences and snapping shots. And like, this is wild.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've worked on a campaign over the last 18 months, and we worked with a Turn It Up Media in Colorado, and they did the out of home stuff. But it's great because we got to create work that was on billboards, on these trucks. You're probably aware of those, just trucks with a sign on it. And other truck wraps and things like that. And when we're driving around the area, we totally pull over, stop, get out, take photos, get the drone out, fly it around, because then we use that to market it as well.
Yeah, there was I think a program that we did for Disney one time that required a drone over the Sunset Strip, but the amount of legal permits and things like that you need to pull in order to put a drone on the Sunset Strip was like really interesting in terms of the connections. But it's definitely a very interesting industry. The more you get into it, the people that used to paint signs that are now the people that put up the signs and things like that. That's more from the traditional sense. But yeah, we were trying to show like the immediacy of digital in terms of, because that was when it was brand new. People are like, how does this get up there so quickly? So
yeah, that was 2011.
And it's essentially, I mean, the way that they're set up, it's essentially like taking your 72-inch TV, even the pixels, because the LEDs, like when you look at the panel, they're really far apart. So it's nothing more than a big TV just kind of blown up in a way. Even that same tech is kind of used in a sense. So
what's the craziest place that you've placed an ad? Have you, you hear these stories every now and then about like somebody sells their forehead, or I think it might have been like Klondike or something. It was like a contest where like if someone was willing to name their child that they would get like free Klondikes for life.
I have one. So it's not digital, but it's really, really smart. So when I was at Hanson Dodge here in Milwaukee, getting introduced to agency life. There is, what's his name? He was a 800-meter runner here in the States. He's from Oregon. I'm blanking on his name, but he got a bronze medal in 2012 Summer Olympics. Anyway, he's a very progressive thinker, right? Because he's not satisfied with the status quo, right? Like, for instance, if you run for Team USA track, you have to be a Nike person, right? But he was sponsored by others, and he didn't like being forced into that box. And he wasn't happy that you couldn't have sponsorship on your clothing. So what he did is he sold a temporary tattoo space for $10,000 on his arm. So when he put that out into the universe, a very smart social media strategist, Mike Wisniewski here in town, he saw that, and he had Hanson Dodge, which at the time was pitched as America's leading active lifestyle agency. They actually bought that sponsorship, and that generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in PR, right? New York Times picked it up. So so a tattoo on somebody, an Olympic runner's arm, that is the most interesting space I've somewhat sort of been a part of purchasing.
Yeah. What would it cost to get like a real great neck tattoo on one of you guys? What do you think you'd sell that for?
Ooh. I don't know, maybe $5 million. What does a lake house cost? What does a lake house cost? So
all right, let's start the negotiation. You said $5 million. I'll say $50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the middle is 2.5. So we have that's a great way to compromise.
Wait, I've done this all wrong. Andrea, you never answered it. How much for like a partial face tattoo?
I think. I don't even know if I would have.
A winery in Napa.
Yeah, right. Exactly. A slice of vineyard in France. Like,
yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh.
once you get to the point of selling away your reputation, yeah, you're
Yeah.
basically just like, okay, well, it's got to be a number that
I don't
is
need to
good
do anything
enough
else.
that I don't have to ever go into another meeting where
Yeah.
somebody needs
Right.
to take me seriously. Because
Right.
It'd be
Yeah,
greatly discounted if it was like blacklight ink. If it only showed up under
yes.
we could
Yeah.
talk.
There
It
you
only shows when you're in the clubs, listening to EDM. You mentioned wine there or vineyards. It made me think there is, I forget the type of wine in France, but it's got a very specific designation, and it's got either like the village name or another name on it. Carolyn, if you're on, shout it out. Let me know. And you like,
or,
what was it?
I mean, like Chablis or
It might. It's in that class of like a Chablis, yeah. Because I think we were drinking. We had like a fake Chablis, essentially.
Mhm.
So it's like one of that style of wine, and these vineyards, you can actually get, an area, a row. You can have like one plant, and make wine out of one plant. Which, I don't know. That seems kind of fun. So maybe I could get you one plant for the face tattoo.
There you go. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And would it have like a plant on it too? Because I feel like that would kind of get a little bit.
It's a part of your marketing,
Yeah.
for your wine. I mean, once you get to a comfortable place where you have headspace, then you got to come up with that commodity business.
Mhm.
You should probably be producing some kind of wine, and then you can market the heck out of it, even if it doesn't taste good.
Yeah. I'm trying to think back to like your question about like where's the craziest place you advertise, and I don't even know if I could. Like that to me would be the ultimate, like in terms of like tattooing yourself but people do it with brands all the time, right? Or your mother, but I don't know. There's a technology out there now where they
wait, what was that? You do that all your time? Like you tattoo
like,
things
I think
and your
people
mother?
tattoo brands and things all the time, and their mother. I would think if there's things that people tattoo, it would probably be things that are, I've seen some like Sailor Jerry tattoos and Captain Morgan's and things like that. And definitely dedications. I've seen the Apple symbol. But it seems to me like those would be like key things that people would tattoo: brands and your mother, something about your mother or your girlfriend or something like that. But there is one of the things that I think is crazy too, is there's starting to be technology out there that can detect whether or not like a male or female is like approaching a sign, or like if it's a human or a dog or things like that. And it'll show different types of advertising. They're doing a lot more of that in Europe. So
I saw that in Minority Report, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like customizing those messages or kind of like reaching out to key people, I think that one is really interesting. It is there. They're definitely trialing it and working on it more. And I'm more interested like in what people are doing with the stuff that's already there versus like where.
Yeah.
That
can get really scary. And I think that's fascinating, but it's this weird thing. Like, do we want it or do we not want it? Because John and I talk about it all the time. Like when Hulu first came out, and I'm like watching cartoons on Hulu, like anime or Rick and Morty or like that style of cartoon, kind of like dude in his basement cartoon. We're getting feminine product ads, and I would get like 3 in a row, and I was like, hey, just providing some feedback. Love the service. The ads are not relevant at all. And they're like, sorry, this is the only advertiser we have kind of in this space. And I was like, okay, not useful, to me. So provide that feedback to whoever. So there's that side of not getting relevant advertising, but then it can be very creepy. I forget what it was the other day. My wife was talking to someone about some product or something, and then she pulls up Instagram and she's getting ads for it. And it's like, ooh, this is creepy. And all the, are they listening aside, which it sounds like they're not. They just have a good profile of us such that they, can kind of understand what we're looking into. But I like the very direct marketing as long as it's anonymized to a degree. Like,
Right.
I don't know. I don't get advertised any weird stuff. So I don't have any, like shame. And if somebody were to see the ads I get, but like, Is that good? Is it bad? Is it scary? You know, I think the relevancy is super useful, but I don't know. You guys are much more in this space.
It sounds like it's better than not useful ads,
Yeah.
There's always a trade-off for ad-supported media, and would you rather have irrelevant ads or relevant ads? That's really, I try to distill it down to some sort of yes or no question. So
I think one of the things that concerns me more, I would say that one of the things that I loved about the opportunities that I had with Clear Channel was I got to look into data and privacy a lot. And so when we worked with companies like Amazon, Apple, Google, they have very, very strict standards. Like with Apple, they were very, very, because one of the things that we're applying with outdoor right now is mobile data telling us a little bit about people going by billboards, anonymized, aggregated. We want to know if one billboard reaches Starbucks customers more than another billboard that reaches, people who go to Target and things like that, or blue collar workers or things. So it's all in that larger level. But when we talked to Apple about, doing some measurement and what they were doing, there were so many different things that we had to talk with their lawyers and their legal hoops and what we're using the data for and making sure that it was going through all these filters. And I just really appreciate that they set that very high standard. And I still talk about that when we're talking with many of our advertisers, that I know that people have different views about that company in different ways. But the experience that I had was extremely sensitive when it came to any of that information being public or being utilized in the incorrect way. And I think that is something to be said for those companies that are constantly fighting that battle.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that we have to watch for is just advertising to kids, because I feel like as adults, we can make a little bit more of that smart decision. But with advertising with kids, that's one thing that I think that we have to be careful for. So
yeah, there's a trust factor that is very important there. Like, if you try to boil things down always to the most simple level, like I tell my neighbor who I am and about me and what I do and what time I'm going to be at home and things like that and whatever, because we kind of know each other. And it's great because he can let me know, hey, yeah, there was like a delivery truck at your house today, but then if you found out later that he told somebody else like all this detailed information, and then somebody you didn't know came up to you and was like, yeah, I know, who you are and like that you've got this many kids and whatever. You're like, okay, that's a little, and like, it doesn't seem, it's a difficult conversation because like, again, Ryan and I, like we work in the space, not in the same space, but like crafting the message, like it doesn't seem that big a deal, but there's areas where it can become a big deal, certainly in politics, where the crossover between marketing and politics, and then like you said with kids, even adults to some extent, because I think about them like, well, we're talking about psychology, we're talking about influencing the way that somebody thinks about something, so then the responsibility falls to the content creator, like, is the thing that I'm trying to get people to, go for, is it good? Like, is it worthy of their attention?
Right.
Yeah. An example of where things, I guess, went too far is you are no longer, so there's a form of targeting called geofencing related to, it's basically enabled by your phone, right? You have GPS enabled apps, like Gas Buddy and a number of other apps, right? And kind of when you're using it, you're actually consenting to share your location to advertisers. So you can geofence, right? So if somebody's been to a McDonald's, you can say that, and Burger King can send you an offer, right, via a mobile ad. But as of like 2022, you are no longer allowed to geofence churches because, as you mentioned, we were talking about politics in the last election cycle. There were candidates, incumbent presidents, geofencing churches because they had, there's, more of a faith-based message, a values-based message. And there were statistics saying that, churchgoers in certain states had a low voting rate. So they wanted to kind of spur that crowd to vote. People didn't like that. They didn't like their visitation to their place of worship used as a data point to advertise. So they communicated enough to the data providers to disallow that now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is there a mechanism for that too? Because it seems like, anyone could come up with anything like, yeah, I don't want my information going to a seedy location being shared, or my fast food habits, or, less innocuous things. But it's probably not enough people to raise a stink for any one of those items, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, here in America are a bit more free market, so you have to do a lot more pushback to get what you want. Whereas, places like Europe are a lot more progressive. GDPR, which is the European data privacy laws. They tend to act and a little bit better on behalf of their population.
Right. Which essentially cascaded, because anyone who's international, you see it everywhere, even if they're not a European company. And it's, to the point where our HubSpot numbers, our Google ad targeting and numbers, like all that specificity and targeting and numbers just was like, we saw a lot of detailed information originally with HubSpot. And we could even be like, ooh, what are they doing on the website? Okay, let's reach out and try to see if we could help them with this. Good intentions, right? But that doesn't mean someone's not going to do bad things with that information. But then, recently, we go down from, okay, here's 10 groups who've been checking out your website, to like, here's 2.
Yeah.
Thanks. Privacy protection.
Yeah. It's made attribution really difficult and more complicated these days, for sure. That's definitely a resounding message I've heard from all the marketing people that I've talked to in the last year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we do have a little chatter. Steve Pease, maybe. Says Nick Simmons. Is that the athlete? Yeah.
Yes.
You're thinking about.
That is
hopefully,
correct.
Steve, you're still here. We're giving you mad cred for helping us out with that.
Steve's a good guy.
Andrea, something you said earlier, you said that you were talking about Nielsen. I know John had talked about this a while ago, but maybe John, you could talk about what you saw, where there was an article about discovering that, what was it, the Nielsen data was not as reliable as we thought it was, or something to that effect.
Well, I'm sure that the two of you could speak to it much better than I could. But yeah, basically, it was that Nielsen had lost some sort of accreditation,
MRC,
in their numbers, and it was funny because it doesn't alarm me. I'm not buying media. It actually was something that I've always been thinking about, like how silly it is that people were able to like price certain ads like the way that they were. Ryan and I came up in the very much digital being prevalent, and traditional ad buy or TV ad time is still there, but just like there's a huge, like, I'm still watching over the air channels, but I'm watching them through YouTube TV now. Like I don't even go over to the like antenna input of my TV unless the internet is down and I'm like trying to watch a game or something, So yeah, it's to me, when I heard that, or somebody was talking about that, I was just kind of, my reaction was like,
you're like, yeah,
that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. Tell me more about what's going on there, and what that was all about.
Yeah, if it even makes a difference.
I mean, I would say that they've been a lot of the large players, your Comcasts and Paramount and all those that are trying to kind of understand like how they can project what their true ratings are, and that to advertisers, because that's a lot of dollars for them. But then advertisers are also trying to understand like what they are actually buying. They've all kind of felt that Nielsen has been a little bit off for a long time. And whether it's they didn't really evolve with the technology, or there's whatever, they're just they don't take the right approach. I mean, it's a huge behemoth corporation trying to kind of move themselves into a new future, and sometimes smaller companies and different people and different approach can be better versus the old way of doing things. And so I think that they kind of got a little bit lost and they're behind. I think there's definitely companies are trying to solve for that. They're saying like, here's our Nielsen ratings, and then here's also kind of what we're seeing. NBC is really the biggest one kind of pushing that forward, trying to say like, here's what our data is also saying, which has also been accredited and involved. They're not just saying here's our stuff. They have other parties that are kind of vetting it. I think the biggest thing that Nielsen is challenged with, and I think this is something that came up a lot recently, especially in today's world, is the whole minority, ethnic, racial audiences and how they're reporting those, because they don't have a good pulse on that. Whether you're talking about how to deal with businesses that have a better understanding of how to buy those types of audiences and what their media habits are, and like maybe they're kind of setting new rules for the industry, or you're talking about Nielsen providing that metrics, and they maybe just don't have they don't have enough of them reporting. They aren't gathering the information correctly. I think that's really the biggest challenge right now for advertisers. Does that make sense? Does that like?
Well, and you think about how Nielsen collects at least the TV data, right? Like you're trying to find a representative sample of households across America and monitor their set-top consumption.
Right.
All that is, how does that, right? Like, well, what if, like we're all sitting around watching YouTube on our phones and things like that. So, we got a letter about being a part of a Nielsen panel, right? They do that for TV. They do that for radio. There's people meters, things like that. So it's, they're trying to use a very old way to measure a massive shift in the way that we consume data or consume media. We're all sitting on the couch watching something, right? That's we've been doing that for the last 100 years, but it's
that's
just
undisputed.
right. But the pipes in which the media comes to us have radically changed, right? It used to be, like you said, you're saying antenna. I don't know anybody that uses the antenna anymore. Heck, it's more and more difficult to find people that subscribe to just regular cable. Just because of the liberties that these cable providers have taken in jacking up their prices and things like that, and not giving you choice, right? Maybe you don't want the Lifetime channel, maybe you don't want ESPN, but you're still paying for it, right? So this roll your own, bundle your own stuff is a lot more attractive to consumers, and therefore I think it's much more difficult to measure through those previous mechanisms.
My TV, actually, it had a message. It's an LG TV about tracking your usage.
Yep.
And I think I turned it off just because it kind of freaked me out. And I think it also has a microphone and uses that to try and interpret if you're like actually watching or not, and things like that. And that just seemed like it was too new to me. I was like, I don't know if I trust that LG TV. So I turned that off. But likely then if I use their services, I'm getting less relevant ads.
Well, funny story. Andrea and I were discussing a pretty serious matter within kind of the sphere of our lives through some people that we know, some pretty serious subjects. And our Samsung smart refrigerator suggested that we reach out to a mental health professional.
Oh my gosh.
If you need help,
oh my gosh.
Please. And we're like,
what? No.
Okay.
Whoa.
Just that we have somebody that we know going through some serious stuff, and we're just talking through it as people.
Right.
And our fridge,
oh my gosh,
told us to get some help.
And you're
like,
also,
come on, Sammy. If you're gonna listen, listen
right.
well.
Right. Like if you're on your device and you're browsing for things, that's one thing, and it comes up later. I'm pretty sure it wasn't on my fridge going, Okay, psychologist day or something like that. So
Yeah.
it was really interesting. That is
And
one
it's
that we
just-
haven't quite figured out like how that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, that was
It's just
odd.
But we
knowledge,
but we
right?
still keep it in the fridge. We didn't turn any of that off. I love that I can go right here and do my grocery list. It's just incredible, and have it on my phone. I don't like you can
Yeah.
have that data. I do
Yeah.
buy a lot of Cheetos. It's okay. So
Not ashamed. Hashtag.
Yeah, it's just
Sorry,
it's
sorry,
just
not sorry.
knowledge. I think like what you expect, what you think, you've agreed to, what you think it is things are capable of. Like you're like, yeah, that's fine. Like grocery list, connected Wi-Fi connectivity, or whatever, that makes sense. But you're not anticipating certain things, and when they do certain things, and you're like, oh, you were collecting more data than I thought this was capable.
Yeah.
Like maybe you'd be okay with it if you knew it. If it was like, oh, by the way, it listens to your conversations in the kitchen, and if you need
And
something,
it's going to
will
suggest
suggest-
mental health services when you need it.
right. Could you please cook the dinner then too?
Yeah,
Could
make
you
me a
please
sandwich.
like make the
Yeah.
Uber show up without the
Yeah.
the prioritizing? We've heard before about how they've taken away some sort of feature in Uber about the tipping. Like they used to be able to see how much they were going to tip you up front, and so people would like prioritize which Uber they're going to pick up and deliver.
Oh, yeah.
They've kind of taken that away, and a lot of times people wouldn't put in the tip because they would want to have the food arrive hot or whatever,
And see how the experience is. Yeah.
yeah, and then tip afterward. But because the Uber driver, and then there was this tip changing too, right? So people would put in like, I'm going to tip $20, and then after they did it, they would be like, here's $2. So people kind of figured out that system that the Uber driver would pick up that food and bring it to So anyway, that's one of my like stories. I think we talked about the guy that was trying to pick up a handle of Hennessy or something like that in some market where you can deliver liquor. It was a funny story.
People are smart. Yeah.
But,
So this kind of touches on that experience, or not the Uber experience, but the refrigerator experience, and then the craziest place you placed media before too. But like with data, and I think in one of the other descriptions we have like programmatic digital marketing, right? So I mean that's great because if you had to go and place everything, we wouldn't get enough content out there in the right places. So to do it programmatically takes that and does it more intelligently, like we're discussing. We'll start this whole topic off, like what is one of the, I don't know, maybe craziest type of targeting you've done, right? So we're talking about driving by billboards. I know Travel Wisconsin was talking to us about knowing when somebody's been to a restaurant, and then when they come back into Wisconsin, and then sending them an ad or something like that, like, hey, welcome back, come check us out again, and things like that. Which again, you're like, that's kind of creepy, but also kind of great, because I will go back to that restaurant that I love. So what's like the craziest level of targeting that at one point you're like, am I like inside the matrix, seeing behind the code? Should I be seeing any of this? Is this okay? Do I need an adult?
Gosh, that's a great question. I mean, I've run a lot of campaigns in my day, so I'm just trying to think of some of the oddballs. I'm struggling right now because people think that there's just I always use the example of like left-handed juggling unicycle riders or something, just because people they think there's a data point for everything, and there's definitely a lot of data points out there. Even like weather triggered data points now too. I was just looking that up. If it's sunny, if it's rainy, you can trigger these messages. There's some data providers where like if a certain commercial runs or your commercial runs, you can mirror like the digital buy, because people use multiple screens at once. Like sometimes I've worked in a more open environment where we would try to take any campaign possible, not our agency, previous agencies, but like people trying to advertise firearms or things like that, where you couldn't do firearms but you could do gun stocks or things like that. That's a really good question. I'm going to try to think on that in terms of targeting. I don't know if you've had any outdoor campaigns that were at least wacky products, and I'll kind of try to think on the targeting.
We did have, there was a Cisco campaign in San Francisco that had billboards that would change based off the speed of traffic. So they had a camera on there that was recognizing how fast this traffic was going. And if it was going faster, the message would be shorter, like Cisco moves at the speed of X miles per hour. But if it was longer, it would be like, now that you're stuck in traffic, let me tell you all about how great Cisco is. And it had this whole litany on the billboard. I love that. That's pretty cool. Like being able to adapt your message to the situation that people are sitting in. That relevance thing is so critical from a creative and just a connection perspective.
Yeah.
I think what you were talking about with the weather trigger, that is people don't even realize how easy that is to do, but it's a fairly easy thing to do and activate as well. So being able, Google would do this all the time for their Google Play service, where they'd have 3 or 4 songs featured, like they'd have like an album and a song featured. But if it was a sunny day, it would be like, something very upbeat or whatever, California-ish. And if it was a rainy day, it would be something a little bit more gloomy sounding.
A lot of Adele.
Song. So a
little more Portland.
Yes, exactly. So the song would adapt to like kind of what was going on, and being relevant in that way, I think, is really smart. But
yeah, there's just a lot of ethical and moral questions when it comes to targeting too. Healthcare is such a large sector. So should we be able to target based on medical conditions or not? It's
I personally would like that, because I'm really sick of seeing the diabetes commercials. Like right now.
Oh my gosh.
Like if you could just not like kill my CTV time with the medical commercials that are not relevant. Give me another 5 years or so, but
I also don't, I like some of that data you wouldn't want to share, but I think I mentioned this in that panel too, that somebody needs to figure out how to identify that I did buy the product already and then stop it. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, yeah, I clicked on your ad. I went through the whole process. I bought the thing. It's here. I'm still getting ads from the same thing that I like. Maybe competitors, I get that they would still be advertising, but like, it's like,
is that like a privacy thing? Because it seems like that's like a level of information that the person who bought it or sold it to you might know, but it's likely not connected to the ad systems. I don't know.
It's the credit card selling your stuff, man.
Yeah, that's
credit
connected.
Cards. Yeah, credit cards sell all your stuff and your
all that information.
But it also is hard to connect that, connect those dots. You're right. Like depending on which channels you went to. That's one of the biggest challenges, where you're like, all right, I'm done. I bought the dishwasher. Stop sending me the Best Buy ads on the dishwasher. It's installed.
Or if you shop for people on Amazon, it's like, you buy a gift for somebody and it's like, do you want this? Do you want this? Like, no, I don't. Stop.
Right. Well, and that email marketing, kind of makes more sense, where Amazon knows, okay, I just bought this, so now did you think about these things? And they'll take it out of the rotation. But yeah, I'll be looking for a piece of equipment, camera equipment, and then I'll start getting B&H photo ads. And those are somewhat helpful. And then I buy it, and then I keep getting those same ads. And yeah, I commiserate with you on that.
Yeah, those are reach and frequency, and like, what is the life cycle? What is the lifetime frequency? Cut things off, and those are questions that we grapple with all the time, and whether it's something that we have control of, where we can say just stop after X amount of ads or X amount of time, or things like CTV, connected TV, right? We were talking about TVs, and you've got your Apple TVs, your Roku. The technology is still really developing. So sometimes if you watch programming on those devices, you might have 2 ads back to back, because these aren't as smart as your laptops and your phones.
Yeah, well, and it's all this stuff, is continuing to develop. So like, what's it like in your guys' field? So you talked about it earlier. These aren't new ideas, it's just new tools, new technologies, new things that we adapt to. So, I mean, just what's that like? Because TikTok comes out and you're like, oh my gosh, now I have to figure out how we're marketing on TikTok. And
Now you have 10 minutes.
Imagine you're on a treadmill.
I know, 10 minutes, yeah.
Cranking up the speed and
right?
Yes.
you're getting older.
Yeah. Well, and like with TikTok's a good example. Like when it first came out, I was like, oh my gosh, this degen social network is the worst. And everyone's like, oh, it's so cool, jump on. And I resisted forever. And then finally, like one of my media friends was like, hey, you really got to be posting stuff on there. We're doing stuff and it's been great and blah, blah, blah. I was like, what? TikTok? And I thinking from like before when it was super degen. So I jumped back on. And I saw their content, and then I could actually sort and get like comedians and magicians and I don't know, just things that I actually, people making movies, things that I find interesting. But something like that, did you guys like when it came out and there's tons of people on it and you're like, okay, well, I guess we got to figure it out? Or is that something where you can wait and see how do the platforms or tools we work with integrate with it, or what happens? Because I feel like every 3 months you're going to have to adjust to something. Yeah, just at the pace of software right now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's enough scale on the devices and channels that we control that it's not a huge priority. But I it'd be false in saying that we haven't investigated it and don't respect it as a whole channel itself, because you see these TikToks infiltrating YouTube and Facebook and Instagram because they watermark it, so you can see where it came from. So you just see so much more content being piped through there. Now, as with most new technologies, generally they kind of it takes some time for their advertising to catch up and adapt. So there is TikTok ads, but I mean, you're generally able to target a geo right now, from my understanding. Those are the most specific.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Those are that's as specific as you can get, even though I've heard that TikTok collects a lot of data from your phone without you knowing. And, that's an issue.
China.
Yeah. So no, we definitely respect it. We're looking into it personally from our firm, but yeah, we know that's where a lot of influence happens. And, you just see people scrolling and dancing in the streets for some reason. And, we know it's powerful and that it's coming and it won't be ignored, but who knows, it could be integrated into some of the platforms that we already use, or we just have to start to treat it as its own platform on its own.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. There's two things that I think that's a concern sometimes when you have new things come on, which one is creative. Like, you're already creating all these things in all these different sizes. So, and all these different things and all these different formats. So like, how do we get to a point where I think now the display world and video world is trying to get a little bit more like, here's some common sizes, here's some common best practices. But every time you see vertical or new size come up or different billboard, whatever, that's a lot of work. I mean, that's a lot of investment and a lot of work.
Yeah. And TikTok, just go landscape. Come on, man.
Right. It's like one piece of it that like, the more we can figure out how to create more of a common size thing, the specs for Pandora and Spotify are different in audio advertising. Hulu is a little bit different on CTV. So it's like, if you can, that's one of the things that we investigate a lot is like, if you meet the highest standard, then it'll come and it'll flow through everything else. So how can we make that easier for clients? That's one piece of it. The other thing, going back to your initial question about like, I want to do programmatic or I want to do something, like, how do you guide people? I think a little bit of that is, as the way you mentioned before, looking historically at what's the goal. So if the goal is, and what's your audience? And if I need to reach 18 to 24-year-olds who are spending the majority of their time on connected television, video, and TikTok, then maybe you're doing more of that than the traditional billboard. But perhaps like one of the things that we've struggled with a little bit is getting advertisers to do more audio, like Spotify, Pandora, there's a lot of really, really engaged audiences there. So if 90% of your budget is spent on traditional media, can you carve out 10% to maybe do this new thing over here?
Right.
That's where I'd really like to go with 2022 is like, we can repeat what you did last year, put more in connected television, but also can we carve out 10% to try this out over here?
Yes. I love that. I love that so much. Trying, carving 10% and trying, because every year it's going to be different and new. So having some built-in capability sounds awesome.
And can you do that in a way where you're taking kind of what you're already doing and repurpose it? Like, again, going to that creative piece, we get so many questions about
the money right there. Yeah.
Right. Like it costs a lot to create all these different sizes and all this different content.
It's a different type of creative too. I don't think people go to TikTok for something pre-packaged, like let's say we have a resort, right? Normally you'd have like a cool drone shot over the beach and here's our restaurants and happy people splashing in the pool. Does that work on TikTok? That's more of like, first person walk through, it's more kind of,
hey guys, Adam here, and I'm at the so resort. Check out what I found behind this secret door.
Yeah, right?
Here,
the weird sandwiches they make or something. But it's a little more, point of view focused. Like here's your experience on the ground at the resort versus a prepackaged kind of commercial. So it's just such a different creative need in my mind.
Yeah.
Well, and I wonder, not everybody is doing this. There's not enough people doing this, but like, so on the flip side of that, like using, trying to use something and repurpose it for multiple places would be thinking specifically about where you're going with it and then designing creative based on that. And it's hard in the world of small businesses and people trying to like do things and compete, and they're like, all we can do is this one small project, and then you're like, okay.
And that is honestly an area that we start too. Like we will have businesses come to, like if you're doing programmatic media, or like people say like, I really think that I want to do out of home. Like it's great to have a billboard or whatever. And it's like, where's your website at? Where's your social media at? Like those are things that will all support that broader picture. So you kind of want some of those base layers to be there, as much as I hate to say like, don't do this yet, but it's kind of like, don't do this yet. We'll see you in a year. Get those things, get that house in order, and then come to us later.
Well, as an award-winning creative agency such as yours, how do you adapt your messages knowing, is this going to be on a TV campaign or a social campaign? How do you guys handle that? I mean, I'm on the technical end and talk about the nuts and bolts and getting on, but I couldn't be creative to, out of a brown paper bag. So that's why I love talking to folks like you, like, how do you deal with that? Like, I can't do it. I'm not a creative director. I'm the media
He's
guy.
really not. He's not.
It's very interesting because we're doing this now, and we just kind of wrapped up first edits on something that's going to be on TikTok and web, other marketing channels on the web. And we had that discussion, and it's interesting because we have different discussions at different levels with different companies, and where it typically starts with, because we style ourselves as a creative agency, not an ad agency, is somebody comes and says, hey, I need, in this case, a TikTok video. We're considering a TikTok video. Here's 3 scripts. So this client is a previous client who we worked with before in a different capacity. And so he said, all right, let's do it. And we picked one script and we worked on it and kind of developed it to be like, okay, we think this is something where we took your creative and turned it more into something that we think will work really well on TikTok. Here's how we think you can frame it for TikTok and Instagram, and then your website, or any other long form advertising channels, Hulu or YouTube or whatnot. So it was kind of from a bottom up in that perspective. I think once they test this and there's some proving in here what works, what doesn't work, then we'll have a discussion at a higher level where we can talk maybe even about the concept, right? Mm-hmm. Because we did pitch with them these other ideas too, like you're saying about TikTok, it's more point of view focused. And I think we did end up landing in a more point of view story, but it's still this narrative kind of silly story. But exploring some more of those very specific platform themes or styles, I think will be an opportunity once we kind of get through this first project, and then we're more of a creative partner at that point, as opposed to just a donut maker, where we're just creating the creative. Yeah. So basically, when we get to a point with our partners where we're helping them figure out the creative, that's when we can really think about and guide it. And I've been on TikTok for, I don't know, 6 months now, and Max has been on TikTok. So we both kind of had a sense of what we like there and what we don't like. And that's what we bring to creative, is our own taste. So like there's the science of marketing, and that creates like a really good foundation and even like an outline or game plan of how we're going to do something. But then the taste is that little bit on top that could really resonate really, really well, or maybe not resonate. And then that tells us, okay, well, this group of people, this target audience likes this type of thing more. So let's change it and try to adjust for that taste, right? So that art with the science, I think that we can add. And we're not doing any of the science we're not doing like any of the ad buy either, or the statistics and stuff. So that can be tough too, because I can look at some numbers and you can look at some numbers, and we can come to two different conclusions depending on our frame of reference, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's always a difficult discussion to have. We've had that in the past where there's a campaign and the video hit like on the 5th email message, and that was the lowest click-through rate and the lowest donation day or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then after that, it spiked, and then after that, it was really high. And you're like, there's so many factors here, right? Yeah, it's right in the middle. So many factors. It's in the middle. You've already emailed them 3 times. So that's a big deal. It's video. And this is something that's longer form, something that, is not just a quick click, go type mm-hmm. Type of ad buy. And so what we see a lot with video and longer form video is this brand equity. Like we're purchasing brand equity and feelings, mm-hmm. with people, and they'll come back and they'll have a better experience the next time they come back. But that first time, it's just like consumption. It's just like going through and having that experience, and then they got to go away. They're not going to do that purchase necessarily right away, but they'll come back and they'll have that positive brand. You've built up that brand equity. So we saw that and we were like, no, that's really good. Like, look at these numbers compared to last year's numbers at this email without the video. Let's compare that. And so that's also why we're in kind of a funky place, just being the creative too.
But then they were only, looking at click through. So regardless of the attention being higher, they were looking at, click through to donation. And it's right. We always make this, we always try to make this comparison that we just try to discourage people. Like, unless you're McDonald's, don't be trying to pull a, burger to sales or burgers to commercial kind of ratio. Like, it's still a big project for them, but a small enough campaign that, like, how do you know that it was the middle of the campaign, that in the last email that said, this is the last week or the last month that you can donate, before we close out the fundraiser this year, how do you know that people didn't donate more there because they had watched the video somewhere along the way and had a deeper connection to the thing, and then finally it was like, hey, you got to do it now or you're going to run out of time.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of testing you would have had to do to make that happen, and they didn't do it. So it's that thing. I mean, we've seen in the last couple of years how data can be used, to say things that are not scientific. So
nefariously.
Completely agree. I mean, I think the insights. I was actually speaking with our marketing coordinator, who's a student at UW-Whitewater, and we were talking a little bit about how to measure social analytics, right? So she's going and she's downloading all the reports and putting the numbers together and where our post engagement is and what's kind of driving more engagement and understanding. But I told her, I was like, I actually had a call from a friend of mine who is an old colleague at Clear Channel, loves to see kind of what we're doing and how I've moved from that space to this space. and also knows some people that could use some help in this area and guidance, whether they're talking about, actual potential referrals or just people that are also growing in the business space. So there's different things, but like she saw that because of what we're doing on LinkedIn and what we're doing on social. That's not something you're going to get from those numbers. But when you look at it and say, like, here's all the things that we're trying to do for our clients, they're doing all these things. And maybe you put up a screenshot or snapshot of what they're doing on TV versus radio versus out of home. And then you say, like, here are your full results. Here's what you saw. It's not really that like we drew a line from this to this, but it's like, look at how much you're engrossing people and your messages out there and all the amazing things that you're doing. Or like you said, comparison year over year, and then look what you're seeing. And rather than trying to do that last touch attribution or whatever it might be, sometimes it's just a little bit more the story of what they're doing and what they're seeing on the back end. It's hard to actually draw that exact line. Does that make sense? Like, it's hard to draw.
Right. It's balancing it with the anecdotal, response as well. Cause our radio ad, it's like $3,000 or whatever to do some radio ads for a month or two or something in this couple channels. And they're like, you're going to be heard by 100,000, blah, blah, blah every week. And we're like, oh, that sounds really, really good. One customer came out of it that we're directly aware of. I heard your radio ad and I called you. Right. So that's that one data point. The other super, I guess that's anecdotal as well, but the other data points are just people commenting on it. So we got so much positive feedback from it. And we have to imagine that those people who don't know us, who experienced it, hopefully also had something as well. So then the next time, right, it's like sales cycle. The next time they come to this point where they're going to think about getting some help with their creative or their video or their web or whatever, they remember that ad or something about what we've put in front of them has endeared it to them. And then they think of us, right? And then they might not even realize it. Like, that's the craziest thing about this type of marketing is like they may not even be able to be like, I don't know where I heard about you guys. It's like, well, it's probably from one of these things that we did, but it doesn't bear out in the data. So it's this interesting thing that we're like, no, like, you're going to get 20,000 views right away on this thing. And that's great. And that beats your previous numbers, but also just see how people interpret it and see how people talk about it and, get that information somehow, because that's also important.
Yeah. I think that's when, like, if you look historically at advertisers who have measured like where people heard something from, it's usually off. I know Twitter did a big campaign about a Black Panther streaming cast that they were doing, right? So it was something to do with the release of Black Panther. They were featuring it all over billboards, and they definitely had digital ads. They had their own ads, and then they did a stream on Twitter that was with Chadwick Boseman and all these people. And people afterward would say, I saw you on TV. And they're like, there was no TV here.
Yeah.
But yes, you definitely made, like, it was that big of an event that they felt like they were seeing it on their big screen at home. So
yeah, it had that much of an impression on them. Yeah. Let's see. So we are kind of winding down here. This is kind of a typical time that we do something a little bit special. Let me see if I can find it. It's been 2 weeks since I've did it, so I forget how to do it. So if you're watching at home and you've seen the show before, or you listen, you know what time it is.
Two truths and a lie.
All right. It's time for Two Truths and a Lie, where we get to know our guests a little bit better, see how well they can tell lies. If you work with them or work for them, keep a close eye at this point. See if you can tell any tells when they're making stuff up. Part of this game is to fool us, but part of it is to fool anyone else watching. I don't know if Steve's still there, or if anybody who knows Adam and Andrea personally and isn't just kind of cruising on Facebook and jumped in, shout out, give us a shout out. We'll throw you up on screen and you can participate as well. If you win, Steve's still here. Oh yeah, there it is. Love it. If you win, you can send us your address and we'll send you some swag. Adam and Andrea will make sure we send you guys off some swag as well from the show. What else? Yeah, the game. So John, why don't you explain how the game goes?
Well, the game's called Two Truths and a Lie. So you're going to want to tell not one, but 2 truths. And then the other item is going to be a lie. Oh, Steve is already lying to just show us how this works.
Adam has never lied, so this might not work.
Yep. So, tell us a couple, they could be little stories. They could be statements.
Yep.
Try to throw us off. You can.
In any random order. And even if you can throw the spouse off, that would be amazing. Yeah, especially if you tell a story and they're like, I've never heard that story.
Yeah.
Those are the good ones.
Yeah. There's been a few of those, but I don't think that, I think
this is the internet. Everything is appropriate.
Right. Yeah.
I guess I'll kick it off.
Okay.
All right. So I am fluent in both French and Italian. I've pulled a bowling ball out of a porta potty, and I've been to a Tupac concert.
Yeah, I like. I mean, it's fun too to hear these things because you want some of them to be true.
Oh, do you want me to give mine?
No. The bowling ball.
John will
potty. Was the bowling ball in the porta potty at the Tupac concert?
It was not. It was not. It evolved into a riot before anything could really be explained. So.
The bowling ball in the porta potty devolved into a riot, or the Tupac concert?
The Tupac concert. Maybe.
Let's see.
The truth.
Oh, we do have some votes coming in.
Yeah.
Christopher DuPont said not fluent in French and Italian. Also, don't give it away. Don't give it away. That
the bowling party you were at must have been pretty wild. If because I'm assuming multiple people were carrying their bowling balls with them into the porta potties. You don't want to leave that unattended.
Ooh, Dana's also not buying number one.
Tearing it up.
Yeah, thanks, Dana. All right, Steve, you haven't locked in your vote yet. Steve, what do you got? What do you got, John? You got a guess?
Yeah, I'm leaning toward French and Italian because the other two are like pretty big, wild stories.
Yeah.
And
I want Tupac to be true.
He had them really quick. I don't know what the bowling ball story is. Maybe he was working at, like at an event or something like that, and had to deal with some crazy situation. But I mean, I don't know what languages you speak. I haven't heard you utter either of those during this conversation. So.
Chateauneuf de Pape.
Ooh, Chateauneuf de Pape. Yeah.
Bordeaux.
Yes, that was also in that French week.
I can do that.
It's all coming back to me now. I didn't take any notes. Steve says no spoilers. Steve, it's already been spoiled. I mean, it's not been spoiled. Everyone has already guessed, so it doesn't count. I mean, you can go ahead and guess.
That's my guess. The
language. Right, so that's your first guess. I'm gonna guess. Chris DuPont says wee wee. Yep. Pretty sure that's how you spell it. But I'm gonna say Adam wouldn't know because he doesn't speak French or Italian. So that's my guess. Now, Andrea, we'll give you a guess. You probably know this, especially if the first one's a lie.
Yeah, it's definitely the first one. Sorry, but
I mean that'd be pretty rad if all of a sudden he's like, actually, I've been working.
Yeah, right.
So I can take you to France.
Right. Yeah.
Are you don't speak French or Italian? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first one is a lie. I do not. I'm not fluent. Jake, what up, Jake? I'm not fluent in any language other than English.
We got to talk about that reaction real quick. Jake, what up, Jake? And then, okay, so bowling ball story. What's the bowling ball story?
Yeah, John is pretty spot on. I was a lifeguard in my teens and college career, and there was a bowling ball in the porta potty, so I put on 3 pairs of gloves and pulled that bad boy right out of there, and it was awful. No, and then I threw it into a garbage can, and then the garbage can tipped over, so I had to take it
Oh my god! Yeah.
No, what's even better is he found out several years later that it was a fellow lifeguard that put it in there, and he had no clue that one of his closest friends, and one of his closest friends, when telling the story, had no clue that he was the one that had to go fish it out.
Yeah,
He was like, remember when we put the bowling ball in the porta potty, and he was like, that was you?
yeah, it's quite the revelation.
I had to clean that out.
Yes.
Oh,
Mhm.
we thought it would be really funny.
Mm.
And then Tupac. When did you go to a Tupac concert?
There was an event called the Fat Rap Fest, and I think 93 or 94, Fat with a PH.
Yes, as one does in the 90s. Yeah.
Spice One, Boss, MC8. That was a very gangster rap heavy, and
Nice.
Tupac and the Outlaws were there, and by the second song, it devolved into a riot.
Oh my gosh.
Facts.
So good.
True story.
I love it.
It was great.
All right. So you didn't trick anyone, but we'll still send you points, or we'll still send you swag. You get points for that. All right. Andrea, you're up next.
All right. So mine are that I don't have a diploma, that hockey is the only organized sport I've ever played, and that I was a princess at Disney World.
Ooh. Writing these down because I have a terrible memory. You were you worked as a princess at Disney?
Yes, during my college internship. I did the Disney internship. So
Yeah. Which one were you?
Belle.
Belle. Does she have blonde hair?
No, she's
Come on, Ryan. Come on.
I didn't say Elsa, so that was the one that would have been clearly off. But
Yeah. Let's see. So no diploma, hockey, only organized sport you played, princess at Disney. I'm guessing you're not fooling Adam on these. I really want no diploma to be true. I have 6 kids, and I will support them in their endeavors that need school, but I'm not going to let them find themselves in school or get some BS degree like I have. So I'm super down with no diploma. Hockey, only organized sport you played, princess at Disney. I'm going to maybe say the second one's a lie. Like maybe you played 2 sports or something.
Or maybe the other sports were disorganized.
Yes. Just like Tupac concerts. Yeah. Let's see. We got to vote. Christopher DuPont. I'm going to say the first one is a lie. No diploma. Princess. Jake said princess. That's how I'm going to say his name from now on. Jake.
Jake.
What are you doing on the internet, Jake?
Right? You should be in school.
The truth comes out.
Well, he is doing a marketing internship.
He is doing a marketing internship.
Yeah, and this is marketing, so
yeah,
this counts as work.
Mm-hmm.
Wink.
Okay, yeah, I'm of the same opinion as Ryan. We're in the.
This is the first time you've ever picked one that I've picked. I always copy you because I'm usually wrong.
I don't know what you've picked, but I was gonna.
Never mind, I take it all back.
with good with no diploma because we're seeing, our generation, I think, has been, we've all learned, we all know enough people and friends that you're like, wow, that diploma was very expensive and useless for you.
Yeah.
But I think that is the lie, actually. I think you accidentally gave away you
should I have
college,
did I know it?
College internship. So you had a college internship. Also, you've got
context clues. I was not
also
paying
got
attention.
a lot of experience, and you've got all these credentials of where you worked, and then going up to New York, and so I feel like they would want degrees.
That's some sound reasoning.
Steve
says, "What is hockey?"
That's
Steve only knows golf.
No, he's answering. He's giving the appropriately formatted Jeopardy.
Yes, the Jeopardy answer. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
What is
golf, Trebek? All right, so John, you're guessing which one?
Degree. She's got a degree.
So
she's more than just a pretty princess face.
A hockey, a badass checking people up against the wall, Disney princess.
There's probably kindergarten soccer involved in there as well, because that was one.
Yeah. All right. You probably know this too already, Adam. Do you?
I do know.
Okay. Then we'll let Andrea reveal what is.
What'd you guess,
lie.
Ryan? What was
that hockey was the only organized sport she played, but I like your reasoning for number 1 as well, but I'm gonna vote 2.
All right, it's number 3 is the lie.
Oh, dang!
What have we done?
So let me clarify that the first
here,
one, I did actually graduate, but I do not have the piece of paper diploma because
I had that thought for a second. It was going to be a.
So it bugs my mother to this day that I have like an empty diploma holder, but the piece of paper isn't in there. That was a weird thing with Whitewater because I took a winterim as like my final credit, and so I walked with everybody, but I couldn't have it until the stuff was turned in. And then there was all this paperwork that you had to fill out. And by then I had a job and I was like, I don't care about the piece of paper anymore.
Well, I was going to say when you're applying for a job and you're like, no, really, I have a diploma. I did graduate. I just can't show you it. It's in Canada.
Right. Yeah. So like, the records show it, but like, there's no piece of paper. I don't have the shiny little piece of paper with the gold seal on it. But one time she found my, the case and she was like, can you just go get the piece of paper? And I'm like, I don't even know if they'll give it to me. So that's
great.
They give you a lifetime achievement award. Maybe you'll get it then.
Yeah.
That's a good lie. That's a good one.
But yeah, hockey was the organized sport that I played. My brother and sister both were big soccer people. Shout out Dana, who's on the podcast. And I did work at Disney World, but I was never a princess. And that one came up recently. We were on a call with a vendor and he actually assumed that I was a princess at Disney World. And I was like, no, I used to cook turkey legs.
Yeah. Don't assume because of how I look and dress that I was a princess. I was slinging meat and frying food.
Yep. Which was also a very interesting part of the internship. So shout out to the college program.
Oh, that's so fun. Cool. Well, that's kind of what we do here. That's kind of our show. How can we plug you guys? Let's see. Is gigawatt.media? I saw that's your.
Yep.
Yeah, that's our website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw that
Connect with us on LinkedIn. Visit the website, and this has just been a real pleasure to talk to you guys today.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for coming and just hanging. It's good times to meet people and just kind of hear different stories. And I appreciate you guys coming and playing. So thanks for that. Everyone, check out, there it is, Gigawatt Media down there. Get all your digital marketing or all your marketing help, right? Out of home marketing as well. All the stuff, programmatic, social, digital, everything. Awesome. White grease lightning. Also, let's see if you're listening to us, check out the video sometime. It's on YouTube and Facebook. You can find that at letsbackflip.com/ I almost did it backwards /Facebook. Facebook.com/letsbackflip or YouTube.com/backflipfilms, or just find it down below. Click the links. If you're listening to this podcast, hit all the buttons, like, subscribe, do all the things, and let us know if you know anyone else who you want us to bring on or chat with, or any topics you want us to cover. We'd love to do it. Let us know. Thanks so much for that. And thanks everyone for jumping in. Who do we have? We had Christopher DuPont, Steve Pease, Jake, I can't say your last name, Dana, and I didn't see Carolyn in here today, so I'll have to text her. I'm very disappointed, but thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
And thanks to Adam and Andrea.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Happy Friday.
John, anything else?
If you don't have your paper degree, you can still get a job. They don't check.
Yeah.
If you learned anything from this, that's what it was. All right. And Aaron was here too. Thanks, Aaron. Always good to hear from you.
But also go to college, Jake.
Yeah. Jake, go to college. No one else, unless you need to. All right. That's what we got. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.